evening and welcome to Sugar and Silk, brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name's Ben Doughty.
My name is Michael Silkolajide.
And we are delighted to be joined this evening by the self-styled glamour boy of British boxing in the early 1990s, the one and only Gary Stretch. How's it going, sir?
I'm good, sir. And sir, how are you guys?
Doing good, thank you very much.
I was quite thrilled when you invited me on because I was a big fan of Michael.
Yeah, I figured that was the clincher. I figured I'd have been a little bit more compromised just on my own. But
if it was you, I'd have told you to fuck off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did slightly take me aback this morning when you. I'm not even going to say what you said on the phone.
Oh yeah.
You used a term which is kind of casual term of endearment in Britain, albeit a curse word, but the Americans find it very shocking. So I was already aware of your kind of blunt style, Gary. But
I thought you would have enjoyed that, Ben, being a man of the world.
Yeah. So Gary, we came into conversation a week ago or so because people on my page were talking about the holy grail of footage, to British boxing nuts of a certain era. That holy grail of amateur boxing footage is your fight with Georgie Collins, which first launched your name into the British boxing public consciousness. And you told me there was actually a little clip of it. But regardless, for anyone who doesn't know the story, Georgie Collins was an amateur boxing prodigy who won 10 national amateur titles. He was 17 years old. They said he had a record of 72-0. That's 72 amateur fights without a single defeat. And it was a formality. He'd win the NABCs and win. I believe it was going to be a record of winning 11 national titles. Frank Warren was there at the Grosvenor House Hotel to sign him. And a kid called Gary Stretch from St Helens ruined the script by knocking him out in the first round. And I don't mean like an amateur style stoppage. I mean spark out. What I want to ask you, Gary, is he turned pro anyway. Frank Warren signed him and said, no point crying over spilt milk. But you turned pro in tandem with him, and there was a natural sense of rivalry established then, although you never met in the pros. Were you intending always to turn pro then, or did that very much launch you into that decision?
I was boxing since I'm a baby, but I used to come in and out of it. I played around a lot. I loved it, and I kind of got disciplined at school, and they made me go to boxing. My mother left when I was a kid, and my father raised 3 boys, and I think I became a bit of a headache. Maybe young kids screaming for attention, started getting into trouble, and I got to some fight and I hurt a kid, and he was a bit bigger than me, and they sent me home, and my dad had to talk to the headmaster, and basically they said we'll let him back in only under the emphasis that he's got to get some discipline. And and the headmaster said, I know a man, Mr. Freeman, has a boxing gym, and we got to take him there and he'll straighten him out. And so they took me, and I said, fuck off, I'm not doing it, because under other circumstances I probably would have loved to do it, but because I was forced, I wouldn't do it. So my dad used to drop me off at 5 o'clock every night, pick me up at 7, and I stood for 9 months like this, never touched the bag, never hit it. And my dad would pick me up and he'd say to Mr. Freeman, how was my boy? And he went, oh, it's great today. And he never snitched on me ever. I did nothing. Yeah. And after about 9 months of being bored, I remember looking at the office at this beautiful man who was just a great man. I fell in love with his loyalty. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, he gave me a smile, and he said, do you want to do a little bit? I said, okay. And we started, and that's how I began. And I was in and out of it. I did judo for many years. And then funnily enough, Mr. Freeman came to me, knocked on my door, my father's house, and said, listen, do you want to go in the NABCs? Because this kid Collins is in it. They're making a big shebang about him, and you'll kill him. And I said, sure. So he showed me a little bit of footage, and I knew exactly how to beat him. And it was just like a story, like a fairy tale, because we met in the final. So at Grosvenor House, it was TV and all for him. And but yeah, I was really. It's funny, if you looked at our records, we'd fought some of similar opponents in our amateur careers. Yeah. I'd knocked him out in 2. He beat him on points. So a boxing expert, if they really looked at our records, I hadn't had the standard of career that he had. But when you looked at the similar opponents, I'd done better jobs on most of them. So, the script was written. He signed with Warren, and I went with Mike Barrett, Mickey Duff.
Yeah.
So Gary, let me ask you, didn't they have the cane in your day?
Sorry?
Didn't they have the cane and as discipline?
Oh, yes.
I used
Thank
to
God. Thank God for Elle magazine, because I used to put magazines down my ass.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
And the headmaster used to say, "Stretch, that made a bit of a twang." And then he'd pull the books out and fucking give it me without. Yeah, we had it many times.
Yeah. Okay. That's. I just wanted to make sure that
You had it in your day, Michael?
Sorry.
You had it in your day?
Oh yeah, I had it in my day too. In Liverpool, yeah, we got the cane, boy. If we act up. I didn't get it much. My older brother got it a lot more. I was kind of easygoing.
Yeah. No, I had it plenty of times. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So how many amateur fights did you have? What was the length of your amateur career?
I don't really know. I had a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't lose many. I don't think I
about
lost
28. About 28 is the figure I was aware of, but I might be wrong.
No,
More?
Yeah, a lot more. I don't remember the number, but there was I was in and out since I'm 11. You know.
Yeah.
And you had like international experience, amateur, or did you
Young England?
Okay, just England. Yes.
The Young England stuff, yeah.
Okay.
And I used to go to Crystal Palace. Can't remember the trainer, but famous trainer.
Kevin Hickey.
Yeah, Kevin Hickey.
Yeah.
And me and Paul Hodgkinson would used to go. You know, he was a friend that we ended up friendly on the England schoolboys scene. But I was, again, like I say, I was in and out of boxing. It was something that I played around with, and then the Collins thing came up, and I said, let's go for it. Yeah.
So it kind of was the Collins thing which galvanized you in that direction. You thought, let's try and make a go of this boxing and become a professional champion.
Yeah, I used to get bored. You know, it's like I would do judo, or I won nationals in judo, and then got bored and then quit. And I was always doing stuff, and I would get bored. But then boxing, you know, after the Collins fight and the whole build-up, and it kind of got into my blood, and I liked it, and I liked the pressure of it. I liked I loved that I was the underdog. It was great, you know. I just love the whole challenge of the fight game, and so I wasn't madly in love with the sport, to be honest. I liked the challenge, and it's funny, when I was a kid, my mother and father used to fight a lot. I used to sit on the steps in my house, in the middle of the steps on the staircase. I was afraid to go down in case they fucking killed me, and I was afraid to go up in case they killed each other, and I'd sit frozen on the steps. I remember I used to piss in my pants. I was a little boy. Yeah. And I had this weird feeling in my stomach, and it was terrifying. And I had it when I boxed. I used to always be afraid.
Yeah.
I don't know if Michael will tell you, but some people love it. I always was afraid. And it took me, when I retired, I realized what I was afraid of. I wasn't afraid of taking a beating. I think I was afraid of the unknown.
Yeah.
You just never know, you know? And so many years I used to think, what are you afraid of? But I had that feeling. It was similar to as a child. And it kind of attracted me to conquer that. At least I had some control over it when I fought. And so it was a weird, I guess it's like people who fucking cut themselves, you know, a weird face your fear kind of things. And so it was something that drew me to conquer my fear. I never really ever did conquer my fear. I was always afraid. But I think fear, if it doesn't freeze you, it's a great help, because if a deer can jump 20 feet normally, with a lion behind it can jump 30 feet. So adrenaline is a friend if you can learn to use it in a positive.
100%.
There was always that sense, Gary, that some people could have looked at your kind of style and profile during the years you were particularly famous in boxing and said that you were somewhat flirting with the game, and there was always this sense that you would find other things to do when you stopped getting hit in the face for a living. I remember seeing you on popular culture shows like with Jules Holland and the like. You were linked with various famous celebrity women like Sunita and the like. And the self-styled Disco King was one description I remember on a particular kind of pop quiz type show. I know that you linked up with the PR guru Max Clifford. Was that all very much orchestrated and thought out from the start, or did it happen more?
You know, I never really cared about any of it. And you know, I was a very disciplined boxer, to be honest. I trained really hard always because I was insecure. You know, it's like I'd be up early because I didn't think I was any good. I never thought I was any good at anything. And so it used to get me up in the mornings. I trained really hard for every fight. I played it kind of. When I'm not fighting, I would go out with the odd bird, and like everybody else. Just so happened I was in London. Had a couple of mates who was in these circles. So, you start shagging the odd page 3 girl. The next thing you know, it's
like you do.
Well, let me just add something.
And then it just it became a little bit of a, I don't know.
I think a reputation.
Yeah, and it was most of it was bullshit, but whatever. I
like
take it. My cousin, she wanted me to specifically say hi to you. She's got a crush on you. She's over in Liverpool. I was like, well, wait a minute. You never mentioned my show before, but now you're going to mention it just because Gary stretches
Gary's on, yeah.
And I know you must get that a lot. And also,
thank you very much for me. I'm humble.
And the other thing was Angelina Jolie. You did a movie with her, correct?
I did.
Oh yeah, I did a movie with her dad. You got her dad. I got her dad.
Oh wow.
You got her. I mean,
I love him though, John Voight. He's great.
Yeah. No, he's great. He's great, but
she's a bit like her dad. I think if you fucked Angelina, you'd get pregnant.
Yeah.
Very masculine energy, I think. She's a small girl. So a lot of fun, and she was very down to earth. It was a great experience.
At least Gary just gave us the byline for this particular episode, Early Doors. We've already got the quote, the headline.
That was great. When did you start acting, Gary?
I fell into it. I was, contrary to the image, I was pretty shy as a kid. Okay. I think I got like a flat. I thought a little bit like you, Michael. You had very loose and like the American style and fluid and beautiful and what and I had that kind of hands were not. I used to watch my heroes with Ray Leonard and so I had this style that was a little bit flashy. Maybe I didn't mean it to be. And I think it rubbed off on some kind of image, but I watched Michael a lot. I don't want to embarrass you, but I loved his style and the fluidity about him, and long and rangy. And
I love that about your punches. I saw your reflex was really sharp, like really fast, and I love what you did specifically. Like I would think, when you look at fighters and they have a certain thing about them, a certain way in which they punch that identifies them. And whenever you fought like an orthodox fighter, you throw that left hand and come over with the right hand, the straight right, but you made it a power punch. Like it would be a jab, right? Because you threw the left first and then you turned with the right. Power punch, and those kinds of things.
That from you.
I used to love that as an orthodox. I watched Marvin Hagler do it. I was like, oh, that's
he used to throw a jab, and then like a right hand almost.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And I'm a right-handed southpaw, not a left-handed southpaw. So that also, I'm right-handed, but I fought left-handed. I remember going to the gym, and the trainer, I was a baby. He said, "Are you left-handed or right-handed?" I said, "Right-handed." He said, "Okay, then you're orthodox." I said, "Okay." So he started showing me left jab and right hand. And I said, what? And he said, if you was left-handed, you'd be a southpaw. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, you have your right hand in front as the jab. And he said, I hate fucking southpaw. I said, why? He said, oh, nobody likes southpaws. So I said, okay, I want to be a southpaw. So he made me a southpaw. And he said, I said, then make me a southpaw. If no one likes it, that's what I want to do. So I became a southpaw. And I think it was an advantage to have two hands, power hand.
Ben, you thought I was contrary. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, it's interesting about the right-handed southpaw thing or the left-handed orthodox, like Oscar de la Hoya, Marco Antonio Barrera, both left-handers who box orthodox. Yeah, you spoke about Hagler. But because I remember some guy in Boxing News years ago said Brendan Ingle has proven beyond doubt that the strong hand should be the leading hand, which obviously, in general, we don't go with that logic in boxing, like Gary just described, and like you all know. There is something to be said. I was right-handed and I was an orthodox, conventional. But there is something to be said probably for having your strong hand as the jabbing hand. No doubt, it can work for you.
Because the backhand, you've got the leverage. So
anyway.
Anyway, so I mean, I always used to tell people it's not the arms. The arms just the postman delivering the mail. You know what I mean? It's the hip, the twist, the timing, the power comes from many other things. Certainly not arms. I mean, they.
Thank you very much.
So I think that I think it's probably an advantage, but it depends if someone's comfortable on learning that way. But
I talked like before. What a lot of trainers tend to do, they think because your right hand is your dominant hand, that also means it's your power hand. And that isn't true at all. It doesn't mean it's your power hand.
No.
It's your power hand because you put it behind and you turn your body weight into the punch. So whether you do it with a left hook or a left hand, but the thing is, it shortens the learning curve. If you lead with your right hand as a solid, if you're right-handed and your busy hand is your right hand, it makes much more sense than like most of the fighters today that are out there today should be southpaw, and they should.
But it's like
if I have an arm wrestle, I do left hand.
Do you? Yeah, interesting.
And I'm right-handed.
Like you just said, Michael, it's all very well talking about the power hand, like the rear hand, but if you're a murderous left hooker, and that's what you are, like Joe Fraser, then obviously that puts the lie to that situation. And the other thing is,
if you're a murderous left hooker, you'll be a murderous right hooker as well.
Okay, so, but I'm sure Gary got some thoughts on this as well. Everybody says you're boxing a southpaw, you're an orthodox, move to your left and throw your straight right hand. But all you southpaws know that. All you southpaws know people are going to do that. So it doesn't necessarily work beyond novice level, does it?
No. And I mean, the name of the game is the feet. Get your foot on the outside of his foot. That's the battle,
Yeah.
Because if I'm on the outside of his foot, it's very difficult. That's how Leonard beat Hagler. If you watch the fight, he just kept switching and Hagler kept adjusting. And he's just stole he never let him set up. He never let him get set to do what he does. Every time Hagler tried to dominate, Leonard would step to one side and Hagler had to reset. And people didn't see the skill in what Leonard was doing, but very, very clever. He worked it out. If you're on this side of a southpaw, I've got to keep adjusting, And
when Hagler came out orthodox for the first 4 rounds, and Leonard was moving a lot the other way to his right in the early rounds, because I remember Tim Ryan said, and here's Leonard moving to his right. He does that more than most fighters do, Gil, and in your opinion should. So he pointed out to Gil Clancy that Leonard when he was fighting orthodox, he was rotating the other way a lot of the time.
Very, very clever fight. If you watch it, you break it down. It was technical. He knew exactly to stay on the outside of him, and he had to reset. Very, very smart.
One of the things that
let Hagler get going, and because people talk, some people give it to Hagler, some Leonard, but just to stay that he did in the way in which he did, anyone else, Hagler would have got out of there. He wasn't past his prime. He was in great shape. Anybody else, Hagler would have destroyed. But amazing performance, amazing tactical, smart thinking performance by Leonard. You made a
really good point when you said Leonard's movement. What that did, it kept Hagler from forming a foundation from which he could come from. So he never had a chance to set his feet to let go and get punches off effectively on Leonard. Leonard kept him turning. And that's one thing you always want to do with punches. You never want them to plant their feet and start punching. Like Mugabe, for instance, you never want that guy to open up his legs and start loading up on you. But if you keep moving in your left, right, you'll never get that opportunity. Or if he hits you, he'll hit you with half his power and not as much. So I think that's one thing that Ray did that he never really gets much, that he never really gets the accolades for that he should.
Yeah.
Going back to your own career, Gary, I get the impression, the 2 impressions I got, one that you have regrets and feel that you could have done a good deal more. But also, if I get the impression of if there's a certain win that you think of as your signature win that you're perhaps proudest of, it was the British title winning effort, like middleweight against Gary Cooper, where you took your lumps. You tell me you suffered a broken hand, broken nose.
2 broken hands, yeah.
Yeah.
I broke both hands and my nose by round 3.
And you seem to be quite proud of that. Maybe is that the outstanding win for you when you think back of your career?
Not really, but it was a. I remember Boxing News. I think the headline was "Coming of Age," and it was just the fact that you know, Cooper was not. He was a journeyman, but he was a step up. He was a grueling, tough, very awkward, much more awkward than he looks. Good defense, but he took me, whether it be the injury or not. I had him over a couple of times early, but then when my hands were busted up, it was hurting me more to hit him than it hurt him. But I just had to keep throwing, and because I had to keep him off. But it gave me a sense of pride for the fact. I mean, I knew it, but then the fans knew that I could dig deep and I could do what I needed to do. You know, it wasn't just all the bullshit glamour. It's like, I went in the trenches. It was 12 rounds. Everyone thought he would come on late, and I didn't allow it. Every time he tried to do something, I would rally to beat him. So yeah, it was a satisfying fight for me in the fact that I had to dig a little bit, which we all do, but I hadn't really had to dig that much before. So.
And you were telling us off camera that you'll always be remembered, I suppose, as well as for the George Collins thing. You'll always be defined, I suppose, your pro career by the Chris Eubank challenge in 1991. And you were telling us earlier on that the timing of that fight was not especially ideal for you, regardless of anything else.
I say this, it may be controversial, and fighter shouldn't say it, but if I'd have been in good shape and had time, I'd have beat him all day long.
Yeah.
It's the easiest fight for 5 rounds I've ever had.
Well, you outboxed him handily enough, Gary. You really did until he tagged you in the 5th round. But Gary, this is the thing. I read something years ago in Boxing Monthly where you were talking about it retrospectively, and you said, I was fit when I fought Eubank, but I wasn't conditioned, and there's a big difference. Because you look great. You had the abs and all that. You look great, but what?
What happened was I'd had a year off. I got into a managerial dispute. I sat out. My problem was I was too smart for my own good. I was an idiot, really. So it's something that stuck with me most of my life. It's like, if I'm doing a movie, I get in great shape, but you give me a date. And then the date comes, I'm in great shape. I train harder than anybody. But then when it's over, I'm not consistent. I let it go. But some people just continually stay in shape. I had a year out. I did nothing. I sat the contract out. Literally, the day the contract ended, I got a phone call. Do you want to fight Eubank's? And I said, give me like 4 weeks. I said, impossible. So they wouldn't. I said, and I was obviously moving up. I called Freddie, and Freddie said, impossible. He said, you beat him if we need. He said, you need a month to get just for your win before you get in the gym. And so I went to bed, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. I just said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I got on a flight, knocked on Freddie's door, and I said, I'm doing it. You want to help me? You don't? He went, you're crazy. We got in the best shape we could. I got fit to a degree, but I wasn't strong. I wasn't myself. But I have to say this also. When I say something as controversial that I could have beat him, you know, in all due respect, Eubank's beat a lot of people late in fights. He could have been the same with me. I just felt like, you know, Michael, when you know you have someone's number.
Yes.
I was strong enough to just continue to do what I was doing.
Yeah.
I just knew every move he was making.
Yes.
The problem I sat down at round 4 and I was fucking exhausted, burned. And the problem I trained so hard in a short period of time. Like a week before the fight, I was banging spar. Like 10 days before, I was banging sparring partners left, right, and center. Okay. And then a few, like my last couple of sparring sessions, they were the same people who were giving me a hard time. I was just kind of burned out, not strong. And I tried to recover the best I could, but insecurity kept, I'd run, but I kept thinking, got to get my win, I'd be overrunning and running for fucking miles. And I just trained so hard in a short period of time. And I was pretty exhausted by the fight. And so I regret it. I don't take anything away from Eubank. He's an amazing fighter, amazing champion. Could have beat me in my best shape. I don't know. I just feel in my heart that he never beat the best me. And I just wanted that. Mm-hmm. Maybe he beat the best me all day long. But I just felt for 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, like, what's he going to do? I had his number. if you watch the fight carefully, he misses every round with crazy, goes through the ropes, misses by miles. You watch him fight Ben, you watch him fight Watson, you watch him fight all these. He's having wars for 4 or 5 rounds. He didn't touch me. I don't think he touched me in 5 rounds. So I had his number, but I wasn't strong enough, and I regret that. There was a conversation before my contract ended that possibly there was a fight with him, but it wasn't a reality. In hindsight, I should have just started training in case, but I didn't. I waited till they give me a date, and when they give me the date, it was like short notice, and I didn't give myself that. My fault, no one else's. That's a big regret. That's the one regret. And then I should have gone back down on my weight. And continued my career, but I was so pissed off. I never got paid for the fight. You know that?
No, what, you didn't get paid? You really didn't get paid?
I called Barry Hearn. And emailed him not long ago. I said, no, we did. No, I didn't. I got fucked. And they sent me 20 grand. I was supposed to get $1 million. They sent me 20 grand. And I just fucked off to America and said, fuck boxing, fuck you, fuck everyone. And that's why I got out the game. I was like, every fight I had prior to Eubank's, whether it be York Hall, Wembley, Royal Albert Hall, it was sold out, every fight. The Eubank's fight, sold out. They told me I was supposed to get a piece of the door. They told me, no. Even on the commentary, they said there's not a seat in the house. The celebrities are here. And they said to us at the time, no, there was just a sudden surge of people that were jumping over barriers. They were, like some excuse. So I never got paid. And so that was the biggest... I was just like done. I said, I took a fight. I took a great risk. I got beat. I haven't been beaten 10, 15 years in my life. I was like, I took it all on the chin, and I didn't get paid. I was like, fuck this game. And
what was the contract, Gary? What was the? Were you working on a percentage of the gate of the live gate?
Percentage of it, a minimum guarantee of 100,000. And then the gate, it just. Load of bullshit, the whole 9 yards, and there was just didn't get what I was supposed to get, and
you wound up with 20k.
And I said to Barry Hearn, he said, no, we paid you. I sent emails and I said, show me the invoice. You have it. Obviously it's on your books. Show me the check you wrote. It's too long ago. Do you think I keep all the books now?
So basically, when you lost to Eubank, did you stop fighting because you wanted to be an actor, or was it something?
No, I was no idea of acting. What happened was I lost. I was very bitter about the situation with the money. I then said fuck the game, and then I decided, you know what? I'm not leaving the game
on a loss.
Getting beat. I'm not. So I called. There's a guy, Alan Lacey, he was doing some stuff for me. And I said, Alan, can you get me a fight? He said, who? I said, I don't care. Just my weight. So I trained, got in shape. And it's so funny. The day of the fight, day before, they switched opponents. Put a middleweight in. And they were trying to get me bumped off again, like last minute. And I'm like, fuck me. I can't even have a real, So I give away about £10 to a Brendan Ingle fighter, a young kid.
Steve Goodwin.
Yeah, he was an army kid, I think, just a strong but big, about 10 pounds heavier on the scales. And I'm like, day before they switched, so I said they were going to try and switch opponents on the night. There was another light middleweight, give me him, but they stuck to. They wanted me to fight the guy, so I said no problem. So I beat him. It was a shit fight, but I won. And then I said, and that was another kind of
reminder.
And I just said, fuck it. I left, and I regret that I never, who knows if, but Michael will tell you, he could have had one more fight, I could have had one more fight, and we could have ended up in a fucking hospital and blowing bubbles.
Oh,
so,
you know what I've got to ask you, Gary, because you mentioned the show and you mentioned Alan Lacey, that show, Box Mania, I believe it was called, in Brixton Academy in 1993, July, that has gone down in kind of infamy for being just the most chaotic kind of comically orchestrated show ever. people say that there was an issue. John Mugabe was supposed to box, right? And he ended up doing an exhibition with Andy Wright, but that ended up getting stopped because he was trying to kill the guy. And he wasn't treating it like an exhibition. You said about you were getting switched opponents. Supposedly, it's always said that Alan Lacey tried to escape out the window because he didn't have the money to
he
pay.
Vanished. On the Eubank's fight, he vanished.
Yeah.
And and we couldn't find him anywhere. And then his wife called me, said he was having a nervous breakdown, and it was bad because I mean, Alan, I think he just got in over his head, and you know, and to be honest, now I'm a different human being, but then I let everybody else. I trusted everybody else, so you know, it's like now you know, everybody knows Mayweather's a great example. Now fighters are taking their careers into their own hands and doing the deals that they need to be done. But in the day, my day, maybe Michael's day, you know, you had a manager, you had a promoter, you kind of
left his name.
Yeah, you hope that they acted in your best interest.
Let me ask you something a little bit deeper in terms of boxing, something that you and I can both definitely relate to. Do you remember your favorite card girl?
Yeah.
Do you remember what fight it was? And tell me about it. Go ahead.
I don't remember my favorite card girl.
So you better tell us yours then, Silk, I suppose.
And I shagged a few of them, but I didn't take the names. I was like, so what's your name? No.
Go on, Silk. What you must have a favorite card girl story. That's why you said. Oh, your wife said. Okay, your wife said. So why you want to bring up stuff like that when you're indoors?
Not so loud.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's move on. So Gary, having moved away from the game, the interesting thing about your acting career, and I no doubt you can tell me how it started. Everybody references you for Dead Man's Shoes, says it was a brilliant film and a brilliant role, and that appears to have been your defining moment thus far as an actor. And it seemed to make people accept that you were for real. You weren't just some good-looking ex-boxer who'd found himself in certain positions because of who you knew. And you were really, you know, you got a lot of critical acclaim for that role.
Yeah, we got nominated for the Biff British independent film, like the BAFTA thing. Yeah, it was. I mean, I was lucky to work with good people. I mean, the thing is with the film business, it doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, first and foremost, when I retired from boxing, I got into acting by accident, by fate. I'll tell you the story in a minute. But when I did get into it, I went to school and I studied for years. And you know, it was like, and the fight game, what makes me sad, and I think we should touch on it later, is that, you know, the mental health issues with fighters and you know, Tyson Fury and all of these, they talk about, you know, it's a big situation. And I think nobody really helps fighters, and there's not really anything that, there should be a built-in kind of, even a system so that they can just get information.
Yeah.
Because I think any profession, anything you do, if you spend your life from 7 to 28, 30 doing one thing, and it ends overnight, I don't care if you're the most solid mental person in the world. If you just stop and do nothing else and don't really apply, you're going to go mad. You know what I mean? It's just, there's definitely, so there's got to be some way that people learn to transition. I got lucky. I used to fly London, LA, Vegas. I never stayed in LA. I would train in Vegas. And I had a friend who was an actor in LA, and he used to always say, visit me. So I was getting ready to retire. I went to see him, and he picked me up at the airport, and we was driving back to his house, and he said, I've got this audition. I said, I'll wait in the car, don't worry. So he stopped on Hollywood Boulevard, and he went to this audition, and I'm sat in the car, and in front of me was an empty space, and an old lady tried to park a car, and then two guys, like little gangbangers in this like gangbanger lowrider car, tried to steal her space. It was raining, I'll never forget, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's not moving, they're not moving, and there's cars backing up, and it's on Hollywood Boulevard, so there's crowds of people. It became this big commotion. And the guy got out the car, and he walked around and he hit the window, and she kind of, you know, backed away and she locked the door. And I'm sat in the car and I'm thinking, yeah, I wanted to get out and smash the guy, but I thought, I've been in LA 3 minutes. I don't want to go to jail. So I just sat watching it. She was fine. She was in the car. And then the next thing, he walked around and he snapped a windshield wiper off the car. And it was raining. I thought, she can't get home. There's no wipers. At that point, I got out the car and I said, yo, what are you doing? And the guy pulled the blade out. I'm in the middle of the street. Thank God there's a million people there. I'm not worried about this little silly knife, but I thought when I knock him out, at least I've got witnesses, you know? So I said, what are you going to do with a knife? I'll kill you. I said, fuck it, come on then. And he looked at me. I said, come on, come on. You want to stab me for 10 centimeter? And he just froze. I said, come on, fucking stick it here, you fucking clown. And he just shit himself. I said, come here, give me the knife. He gave me the knife, completely white as a sheet. His friend got out of the car and I said to his friend, if the worst thing in the history of your life, you get out of the fucking car. So we just got back in the car like a mouse to the friend. So I took the knife off him. I said, go and apologize to the lady. He went and apologized. I said, now fuck off. And he got back in his car and I parked the old lady's car for her. She was not, I said, you're the worst fucking parker ever. So I parked the car. She got out the car and we had a conversation. She was an old lady and just a fantastic person, most interesting woman I've ever met. And she said, you're an actor? And I said, no, I'm a boxer, just retiring, to be honest. And she said, well, how long are you in LA? I said, just maybe a week, 10 days. She said, let me buy you lunch for what you did. And I said, no problem. I said, I'll take you for lunch. So anyway, she gave me a number. We got back in the car. My friend comes back from the audition. Has no clue what I've just been through. And we just drive. I don't even tell him. And as we're driving off, he almost crashes the car. And he says, where'd you get that fucking number? I said, why? He said, do you know who that is? I said, he took me to a bookstore. She was a very famous acting teacher. She worked with Sidney Poitier, Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, wow.
All the greats, Brando. I mean, to work with them all. And there was a book on acting. And we got the book, and she's in a canoe with Dustin Hoffman on Papillon.
Yeah.
She's an amazing coach.
Yeah.
So he said, I want to study with her. So I called her, and she got a bit strange on the phone. She said, because I said, I have a friend who wants to study with you. Because she never mentioned to me she was a teacher. Just normal conversation. And I said, do you believe in fate? And she said, I do. And I said, you met me to meet my friend. And she said, okay. So anyway, she met him. She didn't take him in the class. He did a terrible kind of interview. He was telling her, I've studied with this guy. I've done this. I'm thinking, if you've done all this shit, why do you need this fucking woman? You know, it's just a stupid interview. And she didn't take him. And the funniest thing was, it was a question she asked at the end, which is something I always remember. She said, okay, I'm going to ask you one more question, and there's no correct answer. But I often take my students on this question. So we said, okay. She said, in one sentence, tell me the difference between love and lust. So we went on for 20 minutes. So he doesn't listen. She said one sentence. We went on and on and on. And she said, okay, finish. And they were about to leave, and she said, Gary, could you answer the question? I said, I don't want to be an actor, no. She said, no, I'd like you to answer the question just out of interest. I said, no, I'm not interested. And then my mate said, answer the question. I'm like, shut the fuck up. So we get into this whole thing. So I said, okay, the question was in one sentence, difference between love and lust. And she said, yes. I said, okay, love you give, with lust you take. She looked at me.
Very good.
Left, and she called me that night. She said, look, I can't take your friend, but you're very interested, and you can't learn to be interested. So I said, I don't want to be an actor. She said, well, do you want to just come and have lunch? I said, sure. I went the next day, and there was a red light flashing outside the window, so I didn't enter the place. I just thought, obviously, something's going on. Someone came from another door, come in, and they took me around the back, and Sidney Poitier was in the class, and he was teaching these kids poetry. And I just saw this amazing education. The long road. She said, use the language, Sydney. Long, not long. She said, long road, it's gone. Let me see how long that road is. And then I'll never forget, there's a line in the play, he says, it's over. And she said, do you still love this woman, Sydney? He said, yes. Why is it resolved? Over. Why don't you leave it unresolved? It's over. Leave it unresolved. So they were breaking down this material in these little beats, and the normal piece of text became the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I was crying, I was laughing, and they were just showing this class how to break down, and it was fascinating. And the other thing was, she had this amazing woman's point of view, and I'd been raised with my father and 3 boys. I'd never listened to a woman in my life, to be honest. And so I had this new kind of outlook on life from a woman's point of view, which I found fascinating. And I just kind of wanted to hang around it. I just was like a sponge. So I still didn't want to be an actor, but I was just completely mesmerized with this process that they were going through.
Yeah.
One day she said to me, I won't teach you how to act, Gary. I'll teach you how to live your life. So it was fascinating. So anyway, so the class ended. We went for lunch. And I was about to say goodbye. And she said, so what do you think of the class? I said, I really loved it. She said, start Monday. And I went and I studied with her for 20 years.
Yeah.
A few years ago. And that's what, and again, it wasn't to be an actor. Fame for me, when I had a little, I didn't like. It was the only thing good about fame, it gets you a fucking seat in a restaurant, you know?
That's a good. Did you love acting more than boxing? At the height of what you were doing, either one, boxing, which one would you pick?
I think boxing's a hard act to follow, but you know, it's very different, but it's also very similar. You've got to be very brave to be an actor. You know, it takes balls to show your fucking soul. You know what I mean? It's like to just be there. And it's the opposite to what we do. We show nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a very different challenge. I dropped out of a lot of school. My brothers are very smart. I have 2 brothers, Conrad and Ronnie. They both got degrees and all this shit. I dropped out. Boxing was my thing, so I wasn't great at school. So it was a new education for me. So it was like, you know, I had to get knowledge and read a bit. She'd give me an exercise once. She said, I want you to read the New York Times front to back every day. Every fucking page, every article. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
I fell asleep after 20 minutes. And in the middle of the day, I was like, can't read this shit. But eventually I got to do it. Not only did it give me an education on what was going on in the world, but the discipline, it was fucking difficult. And I thought, this is fucking bullshit. But she made me, and I mean, weird shit. I went in one day, she said, okay, I don't want you to shave. I said, what are you talking about? Don't shave. I'll tell you when you can have a shave. I said, okay. I got the worst fucking beard. It was like this. Ugly and dirty and I'm like so self-conscious. One day, it's the strangest thing ever. I thought, fuck it, I don't care anymore. I just give in. I didn't care what it looked like. And I went to the class that day, and I was in the lift going up to the class. And the first day, I just said, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Just all my self-conscious, I just didn't care. And I went to I'm in the lift, and I'm in my own world, and I notice a pair of sexy legs, and I'm kind of looking, I look up, and there's a girl looking at me. And I went, hello. She went, you're the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life. And I went, oh. And she just gave me a number and left. And I was like, what the fuck's that? And I got out the lift, and I was walking to the class, and there was 2 other girls in a different studio. Who started giggling. And I looked ridiculous. I had a beard. I looked like a fucking tramp. And one of them was giggling, and I kind of laughed. And then she went, I was just about to go in the class. She just went over and gave me a number. 2 numbers in 2 minutes. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's that about? I walked into the class, just my energy. I don't know what it was. I walked into the class, and I go, and I've got to do this monologue. And I sit on the stage, and I do this thing. And then she says, you can shave today. I said, what? You can shave today. I said, why? She said, all your subconsciousness is gone.
Yeah.
You know, we were very subconscious about our looks. And I said, what? She said, yeah, you can shave today. I left the fucking thing for another month. Just
of course, you're getting all the birds when with the beard on.
It's like you give an energy of like you just, you know, when you just don't care anymore. It's not that you don't care. It's just that it is.
There's a
I was always very conscious of it. I thought I looked terrible. When I got to a certain point, it was like, fuck it. And then whatever energy that became
Yeah.
very attractive, I guess, to whoever, or just I don't know what it was, but the day that it happened was the day, and I thought, how does she fuck? She knew the old lady. She's like, you shave today. And she had no clue what just happened. But I guess you just, so there was all these kind of weird exercises and a fascinating journey. And it's like, if there is an act to follow from boxing, this is, I mean, I don't care so much about the result, like the movies. I love the process of acting. It's a massive learning when you do it and you really do the work. It's a fascinating, and it's like art. It's like eventually it takes you 20 years to learn to do nothing. You know, that's the reality. She said it takes you 20 years to learn to do nothing, and so it's true. And you get to a certain comfort level. And I used to say, how long is it going to be like a typical athlete? How long is it going to be before I'm? She said, 20 years. And it was about 20 years when I first think I started to know a little bit about, maybe I know a little bit about what I'm doing now. I still don't know fuck all, but I know a little bit. Well, and so, the process is fascinating.
When it comes to the, I mean, before I just cut in about boxing, it does sound like you perhaps found more self-knowledge ultimately on your acting journey than you ever found in a ring. But when it comes to boxing these days, Gary, do you still consider yourself a fight fan? Do you follow the game?
Massive, yeah.
Go on, talk to me.
I love the fights. I'd love to train someone one day, but
yes.
I would love to give back. I think that trainers are very special individuals. I don't think there's many great ones out. I think there's a few. I think there's a lot of room. I mean, there are obviously some great trainers, but I think there's room because I think, and I'm sure Michael will comment, boxing is so much more than boxing, you know? It's so much more. And I think when you've been around and had a certain amount of experience, and sometimes gifted trainers maybe don't need, but I think there's something that I think that, you know, I'd love to. I see so many times fighters going through certain emotional things. Maybe they're afraid, and maybe they don't tell the like. If I was a trainer, I'd tell my fighters, okay, be afraid. Well, because the fighters won't admit it, but it's fine.
Yeah,
there's ways to deal. I think there's an openness that's lost in boxing. Like everybody's a little shut down in a little certain way. I think that there's other approaches. I've trained a few great trainers and they all were similar. And I wished I had I wish I had had a different relationship with my trainers, that I think they could have got a lot more out of me.
Did you feel that some of them were kind of trading on mystique more than anything palpable that you could actually get from them sometimes?
Well, you know, it's like a lot of these trainers, some of the ones that are mostly now in the limelight, a lot of them have got fighters who are already world champions. Yeah. You know, they start training these guys, they're already world champions. So I think that there's some great trainers, but I love a lot of the old trainers were really amazing. Now there's some good ones, but I think there's room for some better ones.
With Jimmy Tibbs, didn't you? You worked with Jimmy Tibbs at one point, right?
Jimmy's amazing. I love him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy's one of the greatest trainers I work with because he's a great knowledge of the game, but he gets in your nuts.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few trainers I've worked with that he makes you believe. You know, he'd make a great army sergeant. People would die for Jimmy, you know.
You know something, I'm going to call him tomorrow and tell him you said that, and it will mean something to him. You know,
he'll tell you, I'd have died with Jimmy because because you know he'll die for you. You know,
yeah,
he's a real fucking motivator, and he doesn't try. It's just you just see in his eyes. He's like he believes. It's almost like the Mad Irishman in Braveheart. You know,
yeah.
It's like it's got this thing, and it excites you, and you've got a war. Freddie Roach, who trained me, is an interesting trainer, but I don't think he's the greatest trainer in the world. The funny thing is, Freddie's disability is what makes him a great trainer, because when he used to work with me, he had Parkinson's. He would waddle in and knock on my door at 5 in the morning, and I'd go running. He could barely walk. And you say to yourself, if fucking this guy's knocking at my door at 5, if I gotta go, you know what I mean? Yeah. The commitment against all odds when he's struggling with his health. So fighters want to win for Freddie because they appreciate like the journey he's on and the struggle he has, and he shows up and he fights his disability. So this disability in many ways is something that I think is not a great quality to talk about, but it's something about it that people will fight for Freddie, and they'll give the best, because if Freddie was willing to go that far, then you better, So I think he has that quality. When he gets to specifics and the technicalities of the game, and I mean, Freddie was a meat and potatoes fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he took a lot of punches. Didn't make very many opponents miss, and he wasn't a hard puncher either. So every single fight of his was going the distance. He didn't have a good defense, so he was going to get hit a lot, and he didn't hit hard, so he's not keeping anybody. The guys get brave with him, and that's one of the unfortunate things. But one thing he did do, at least what he's done with Pacquiao and a few other fighters he's worked with. I mean, he worked with James Toney as well, and worked, amazingly with him. He was able to, I think, he emphasized the things he wasn't good at, and because he expected that out of his fighters, that he knows that it's not good to get hit, and so he's gonna make that a point of that not happening because it happened to him.
Yeah.
He'd want to see that happen to his fighter. So I guess you can call it learning from your loss, from which is what he did. Take that experience and bring it back into boxing and teach fighters with it. And that's why you'd be such a great trainer, because you've had those experiences. You've had obviously a lot of winning experiences, but you could take things like lessons from when you lost, and you can apply them and see how that could happen with another fighter. And that's what boxing needs to do today. It needs to recycle the ex-fighters and start there and bring them back into the game, because it's getting lost to these guys that are fitness trainers, and maybe they were basketball trainers, and now they want to, and they've never had any boxing experience before, but they've watched fights and they understand the lingo, and you have commentators doing the same thing. They've never, they never punched a stamp, never mind, what I mean, anything else. And boxing needs to recycle its athletes. That's what I'm saying. Basically.
Talking of that kind of fighter's experience, Gary, I used to be a coach at a Repton several years ago, and there was a kid there called Scott McNess, a young boxer who did a bit of acting, and he told me that you taught him a little cheat on the scales. If you're tight of the weight, he said you taught him a little cheat on the scales. Does that ring a bell?
I did.
Yeah, he said. Can I say what it was?
Go on.
You said, if you go like this when you're on the scales, yeah, I can't really do it. Like biceps flexed, yeah, it doesn't allow for my picture frame. And then if someone like your trainer, a bit crowded, just holds you under the elbow, just puts his hand under your elbow, you might get like £2 off. Does that ring a bell, Gary?
It does.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's experience. I mean, we shouldn't be giving away those secrets, really, because, but live on air. But no, I do remember that. It's just I've been wanting to mention it at some point during the show, and I managed to get that in. But
no, I've had a few. I could tell you a few trainers. I can't mention them, of course.
Yes.
Cover, but I've had a few of them stood right behind me, like pinching my fucking boxer shorts, lifting me up, like I've had it many times.
Yeah.
God, most of the times I made weight pretty okay, but no, they anything that can happen, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It's not the most. It's just a winner's game, and whatever you got to do to get there, you got to get there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was your greatest fight? Like the fight that you felt greatest, your win that just really excited you and say, yeah, I picked the right thing. Yes, I'm going to be the future.
It's very sad. I fought a guy, and respectfully, he was a journeyman. He's one of them fights coming up. They feed you these guys. His name was Seamus Casey.
Yes,
he was a big lump. He was bigger than me. He was I think he fought at light heavy, but he fought me at my weight, and I think he weighed in like maybe 11.8 and 11.9. I weighed in 11 stone. But I fought him at, I think it was York Hall, but never in my life have I fought better. I just destroyed him in a round, but it was the most devastating destruction, like almost killed him.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I don't know if it was ever filmed. It's the only fight I've ever. I heard screams in the audience. They haunted me. It was like either his mum, it was someone who loved him. It went from cheers to screams of despair, and it was just like I smashed him from one end to the, like, never missed him with. It was the most punch perfect performance, even though I was fighting someone I was supposed to beat, but I've never ever felt better in my whole life. And then I just knocked him unconscious, and I just never saw it. And I thought I'd just love to see it, but that was the one fight which. But I used to hate my fight. I used to always think I could have done better. I remember boxing guys as amateurs and beating some international, champions, and then they'd hit me with a jab. Maybe I stopped them in the third or second round, whatever. Just destroyed them. But I got caught with a jab. Everyone's like, "You just beat this national champion." I was pissed off because he got caught. They said, "Well, he's a national champion. You're gonna get caught." I said, "It's ridiculous." And I used to hate it. So I never was happy, and then I actually never thought I was any good. But it wasn't that I was any good. I used to think you may be better than me, but I'll still beat you. So I used to have a mind that I didn't like getting beat. So it's the same if you play me in poker, if you play chess, I have a streak in me that likes to win. And so often I would go into fights thinking maybe he's better than maybe not, but I'll find a way to beat him, and I normally did. But it wasn't because I felt I was better.
Huh. So naturally, you don't believe yourself to be a self-confident individual.
Not really. I mean, I don't know whether it's from childhood when you get left and you think if I was worth anything, you wouldn't leave. So I've tried to work the psychology of growing up, and you get that deep-rooted, somewhat, you're never good enough. You're always trying to prove yourself. And I've learned to give myself a break, but it's like movies. I watch movies and people, "Oh, you did a good job." I don't even want to watch them. It's like, as long as I did my best, once I finish the movie, I just go on to the next one. People say, "What's your favorite performance?" I say, "My next one," because everyone you learn, and you just, you try and learn a little bit more. And, I think it's healthy. I mean, I think I should, if I had a son or a child, I would always try to make them feel worthy and believe. Yeah, because it's a bit of a lonely, it's a bit of a sad trek when you never satisfy yourself. But I think as I've got older, I appreciate more a little bit. But
so, do you think you've quelled your demons? Those demons, you know what I mean? Have you quelled them? Or are they still there, very much alive?
I think they're there, but I understand them. So you put light on them, and they take away the power. But it's like the good wolf or the bad wolf. Which one is it? The one you feed.
Yeah.
So I don't feed them anymore. I know they're there, but I've learned to to try and feed. Put light. Once you see the problem, and as you get older, you understand. But the thing is with childhood and things that happen as children is, they stay with you.
Yes.
You learn to deal, but it's still there. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why, with kids and parenting, it's so you don't realize how we affect.
Yes.
And my acting coach used to say, you have to be responsible for your actions, not your intentions. You may not have meant to do it, but your action did it. So you didn't mean to, but you were. So you have to be accountable for your actions, not your intentions.
Yeah.
So,
What
it just taught me as I got older to be a little bit more careful. Because on the flip side, people have come up to me in a bar one night and said, "You changed my life." I said, "What?" I don't even know the fucking guy. He said, 25 years ago, I was in a bar, I was having a beer, and you said this, and it changed my life. Thank you. You don't realize sometimes how you can have an effect on someone and really change someone's life. So it makes me a little bit more conscious of what I say and when I say it and how I say it to people, because you just never know where they're at, you know.
We're certainly glad you've joined us tonight in any case, Gary. And from the outside looking in, I would like to say that you are, I believe you're one of life's winners. I mean, there was something about you that suggested you were never going to wind up with a gym bag full of broken dreams and a sob story, you know. I agree with what you said also, that there should be more aftercare for fighters, but you look like one of those, to me, one of those luckier guys who's not immediately in need of that. And, you know, and has been a success. You know, you are a British boxing legend, despite you might have relatively modest achievements to justify that description, but there's no doubt you're a British boxing legend. I'm sure this has been a popular show. I've seen the comments on it. One comment said that if Gary was around today in social media's era, he'd be a megastar, you know. So perhaps you did come a little bit too soon for that particular fate, but you're looking good in any case, champ, and we're really glad you joined us, unless there's something else you wanted to say, Michael.
No, hey, listen, it was an honor to meet you. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. You have great energy, and you're just starting, right? You're just starting. It's a new career. You have this knowledge that, you know, boxing gives you a knowledge and an insight that, you know, if you take it and put it up against your life, you know exactly the way to go and to get to it. You know what I mean?
Here's where it gets interesting. Normally I close the show by pressing this button, but there's something gone wrong tonight because it's given me the option to go live. Now, we're already live, right? Because people are commenting, they're watching us. So I don't know. We normally have a little chat to like Gary or the guest as soon as we finish. I'm actually trying to finish this show because I know Simon is ill, and I don't know if he can finish this show for me. So, but stay around, Gary. We'll say goodbye to you off camera, but I'm trying to get off camera first. Sorry about this.
I just want to thank you both anyway for inviting me. And
absolutely, the pleasure was all ours. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I'm now trying to get off this live interview, even though I've encountered some possible tech difficulties. So bear with us. We might just be here forever now. Sugar, Silk, and the Stretch forever stuck on this page. But I'm just going to try and get rid of it. Okay. No, it's not. You know what? Something weird has happened.
Stay forever.
It's not. Honestly, it's. There's something has gone wrong tonight. It's saying go live. We're already fucking live.
Ben, press the red button.
I can't. I can't press the red button. It's a blue button. That is the problem.
Okay, press that too. Press the blue button. It'll turn red. Then press the red button.
It's not doing it. It just says open settings. Something's happened tonight, which has not done what it's supposed to do.
Okay, hold on. It says leave studio, right? You can hit that too.
It does, but you know, there's a way of ending the broadcast, and it's not letting me do that. All I've got is go live in the bottom. We've been live for over an hour. Sorry about this, Gary. This doesn't normally happen.
Don't worry.
How do I get?
You paid me a lot of money for this interview, so I don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, this is social media anyway, right? So things are a bit loose. I mean, you were cursing. We were talking about things we shouldn't talk about. Silk lost his bottle because the missus was in and didn't want to talk about round card girls. But
you were yelling. He was yelling into the computer. My wife was right there. I was like, shh.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, but you were the one who started wanting to talk about birds and ring card girls. I'm genuinely interested how I get out of this broadcast because it just says go live and we're already live. It's obviously a glitch. I'm going to try something.
He's out.
Oh, perfect. Let's talk.
Are we still live though?
We're still live. Yeah, let's have a good time.
Okay.
Oh,
no, what happened? Okay, I got it. I can end it now. So I hope you enjoyed that little interlude, guys.
Me and Michael just did a whole nother interview.
Yeah. Well, he probably could do it in that kind of time as well. Listen, I said this before we started. We've had some great guests on this show, Silk. We've had the likes of Virgil Hill and Michael Nunn, and and all sorts of legends. I have enjoyed this one as much as any of them, and I think it has been as profound as any of them. All thanks to the one and only Gary Stretch. Gary, I would recommend now you disappear for another 20 years from the consciousness of boxing fans to keep your rarity, value, and mystique. All good?
You're the first interview I've done in 20 years, so.
Fantastic. Stay around, Gary, just so we can say goodbye. All you guys, you can stop watching now. Be lucky, keep punching, tune in next week. You know you will.